Have you ever felt trapped by the story of your life? In this episode, we dive deep into how to break free from the victim mentality, to reclaim your power, and author a new narrative. Discover how changing your words can change your world, and learn to step into a life that you are meant to live.
I'm so excited because this week was just the release of the episode that I did with Mark, which is how I met Kimberly through Mark England in the episode that just came out this week. And also, I just started the level 1 certification with Enlifted, where Kimberly is part of the management team, and she is the host of Get Enlifted podcast, which is super awesome. So I'm even more excited about it because I thought that episode with Mark was been like my favorite episode because it really was very personal for me. We went through this 4-step process, which was through the acceleration of me starting this podcast. I've learned and healed so much about myself in this journey of starting a podcast that I had no idea was going to be such a part of breaking me open and me learning to finally be alive for the first time in my life. Take a breath.
A great and lifted student.
Exactly. I am learning. I just had no idea that this was going to be so powerful in my journey. This episode coming right after that, I feel like this episode is going to be even better. Like, it's like every single episode, I'm like, oh my God, this is my favorite fucking episode.
Yeah.
And right now, I asked you the question before we started recording about how far in advance you guys record the episodes, because like that one with Mark, we recorded like a month ago from about today. Everything is like caught on fire in a magical way since we did that 4-step about how my podcast was going to accelerate my life. And here we are, and it is fucking true. And it is
Abra.
incredibly magical. Like, I have never felt like so aligned and like in my real purpose than I do right now, and more confident in myself. And I'm coming off of this like weekend that I had with Danny Morell and the Awaken Inner Circle team, which is like, oh my God, this family that I've met in that community. And then now I'm going to get to be part of this Enlifted community too. I feel like my heart is going to explode. I'm serious. Like, I already feel the energy. And it's like we have all this overlap of all of these people that we know now.
Yeah, it's so fun. Mark told me about the weekend. You said it was awesome. And Danny Rios is a dear friend of mine and was one of my first mentors, like in the coaching space. Or, is an interesting path of how we got connected and then how our relationship grew. And I love that guy with all of my heart, like just one of my favorite humans. And Mark and Danny, like they're comical together. And I'm looking forward to when I get to meet Danny Morell too, because I'm sure that will happen in the near future. But I've enjoyed the overlap of these communities and I've enjoyed watching and seeing the awesome people that we get to meet through it, right? Like the community we've been building with Unlifted, we've been doing this for Mark's been doing it for about 6 years. I joined the team 4 years ago. I know the feeling of your heart wanting to explode, right? Because we live in a world where, there's a lot of people out there that are really not on the path, and your day to day life and your day to day experience of your average person that you meet, you don't get to have these really heart centered, heart opening, heart fulfilling conversations with. And then you meet your people, you think you're on an island. You think you're the only one. You think you're the crazy one. And then you meet your people, and all of a sudden it's like, and the excitement is so big. It's so big. And it only gets better from here, Amanda. That's the best part I got to tell you. It's like,
Oh
it
my
only gets
God.
better.
Well, and I feel like now that like I'm part of both, it's like I'm like floating.
Yeah.
It's the energy is amazing. Ryan, I want to ask him to be a guest on the show because he just really helped me with my perception of cannabis. And this journey that we just did there was with cannabis. And it was the most amazing experience of my life.
It's so funny because when we first started chatting and you're like the overlap of people people who are very close to me that I've had the pleasure of knowing and they've transformed me as well, right? And met them earlier on in my journey in building Enlifted and teaching this to other people. And for a while, these people who were my friends, I was like, man, I wish more people could experience you. I wish more people could learn from you. You're such a great teacher. You're such a great coach. And then now, fast forward, they are doing it. And it's equally exciting and fulfilling for me to watch people that have had close personal touches on my own life out teaching hundreds of people, thousands of people, making their wave out in the world and being a part of that, right? It's like, I remember one of the first times that I was really the first time that I met Ryan, Danny was there. We were at Mark's Lake House. A handful of our other friends were there. And I had this vision of myself and my life of being part of this team of people. And when I say team, I just mean kind of like a team. Like we all have similar goals, passions, impact we want to make in the world. And I saw myself being part of this squad that was going to make these huge ripples in the world of health, wellness, spirituality, personal development, language, all of the things that I was learning. And at the time, it felt like, what the hell? Who am I to do that? Why would I be the one to be leading this? Or why would I be a part of like what? It didn't make quite sense because I was still early on in my coaching business. I was still early on in my experience. That was almost exactly 5 years ago. And over these last 5 years, slowly but surely, what has happened is that has come to fruition. And the best way I know how to explain that is God showed me the vision and I accepted it. And so then the pieces of my life started to fall into place for me to be able to go out and do that. And the details of how I'm doing that now is teaching other coaches and practitioners how to use the Enlifted method, which is focused around unwinding your stories of victim mentality, unwinding your experience of stuck stories, traumatic stories, feeling of not being good enough, imposter syndrome, all that dumb shit, that shit talking voice in your head. How do we change that? How do we shift it? How do we get the feeling that you got doing a 4-step with Mark about how accelerating your growth of your podcast? How do I spend my time thinking like that? How do I get myself thinking? How do I learn? Because that's a skill. That's a skill and a practice. And how do I help myself build my mindset in that way? How do I help other people do it? How do I help my clients do it? And what happens then is that you do get that ripple effect. You do get that people who come into contact with you for the first time are like, wow, oh my God, it's amazing. Right. So you're on the path too. And I love to see it. And hearing you talk about how much your podcast is lighting you up it resonates with me. I've been podcasting for 3 years and that's crazy in a lot of ways. It feels a little over 3 years, honestly. And it feels crazy to me. And I remember what that first season and that first handful of recordings felt like. It was a dream come true. And now it's what I do, almost on a weekly basis. I publish a weekly show. I go on podcasts, I do interviews, and it still doesn't get old. It becomes more normal, but it doesn't get old. I love having these conversations. I love talking with people about the things that have been meaningful in my life and the ways in which I've been able to transform myself and to step into my more authentic self, to step into my higher self, right? Like, which I'm still going towards. We still got more to go. Right? Totally. And so, it always lights me up to connect with other people and especially other women on the path that are doing it and that are stepping into that role of saying, no, you know what? I want to spread my message. I want to tell my stories. I want to lead other people. I know that what I've been through is valuable and fucking painful and difficult. And I transmuted that shit. And now I'm here to help somebody else go through that too. So, it's my favorite thing to be able to support people in, have conversations about, and just make that ripple happen even bigger and wider.
Yeah, it's amazing because I think the first part of it starts out with getting the story out of the past. And that's what I done with Danny Morell. And then now with Danny Rios is getting that story, the old story out. Well, I think I'd already gotten most of my old story out. And then the next phase that we did there was really, okay, obviously the victim story and then the ego, like what's the ego saying? Right. So then we've gone through this whole thing of the ego and 4-stepping what the ego is saying, which is the victim story, right? Everybody's got it. And once I identified that with Daniel Rios, I realized that I was saying my name my name was my ego. And that was the only time I said my name. And I was constantly like, what the fuck, Amanda? That was so stupid, Amanda. And as soon as I realized that, I was like, no wonder I hate my name. So that was my big, of course I hate her. And like a lot of people don't use your name just in, some people do. And I noticed when a friend, she always says my name a lot whenever she's talking to me. And I always thought, why does it make me feel so uncomfortable when I hear her say it? Just feels icky. It's because I was saying, who do
Yeah.
you think you are, Amanda?
Well, here's what's interesting, right? Our name is the first spell that's given to us as a human.
Yes.
And so a spell, right? It's not just like, okay, what is a spell? A spell is a word or a combination of words of great influence. And so our name is our first spell given to us by our parents. And what they chose, your name, you didn't choose your name. Oftentimes, if we go, then we go to like growing up, right? Like my full name is Kimberly, and I was only referred to by my parents as Kimberly when I was in trouble. So there was a negative association with my full name. And so I never wanted to be called Kimberly. Growing up, I was called Kim. And if I was called Kimberly, it was like, oh my God, that's bad. When I became an adult in my late 20s, I had a mentor of mine that would always call me Kimberly. And at first, I had a very similar reaction to you, where I was like, oh, I don't like that. And then something shifted in me where I was all of a sudden, you know what? I actually prefer that. I actually prefer my full name. I like my full name. I like Kimberly Kesting. I think that's a beautiful name. It took me 30 years to reclaim it. And when I did, then there was a period of time where I was like, don't anyone call me Kim, because I was like, I want to be called Kimberly. And now you asked me in the beginning, like, what do you prefer to be called? I'm like, literally like, I don't mind anything, because I worked through that process and that experience of those stories of those. Your name is your identity. So when we created an identity for ourselves as, oh, that was so stupid, Amanda. Why did you do that, Amanda? That was dumb, Amanda, right? And you're constantly like berating that identity internally, right? You're constantly shit talking that. You're associating it with that part of you that is in the victim mentality, that part of you that you believe not to be good enough. You hear all of those statements, that internal dialogue, and you take it on as true. Then
Yeah.
of course we have this negative association with it. So we don't want to hear it. We don't like it. It doesn't sound good. It doesn't feel nice. When we start to associate it with the part of ourselves where, oh, you know what? Like you just said, you started observing that voice of the ego. You observed that that's the only time I use my own name. Holy shit. Okay. That's why I don't like when my friend calls me by my name. When really, like, I think about it as like, our name is one of the most powerful words that can be said to us or for us to say, because it's our human way of the I am,
It's
you know.
our identification.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right. And I can say that has been part of you completely identified like my story and me coming to myself and realizing that from my name means worthy of love. And my mom has told me that since I can remember. So here's the story, right? That I've had to figure out and let go of. My story was that she says, there's 7 years between my older brother and I. So she tells the story of she didn't think she was going to be able to have another baby. They had tried and, she hadn't been able to. So when she found out that she was having me, she was afraid that she wouldn't love me as much as she loved my brother, because she loved my brother so much. She'd had him for 7 years, just him. So she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to love me. But then you were born, and I just fell in love with you immediately. And I've loved you and your brother equally since. But I've heard it so many times and I felt it and received it. And then I'm like, so you had to name me that to remind you that I am worthy of love? That had been my story
Oh,
my
wow.
whole life.
Yeah.
So that was also part of me hating my name.
Yep. There you go. Because now you have the spell of your name, which is the spell itself is worthy of love, but the spell came from a place of fear of that.
Right.
here's something not to, I don't know if I'm going to derail anything here, but if she was feeling that the entire time she's pregnant with you, you were feeling that the entire time
Exactly. And
pregnant.
that's part of what I've just realized in the last month or so. And also on top of that, my cousin had just died 2 years before at 6 years old with leukemia. And my mom felt that guilt that her
Yeah.
sister had lost her child and she already had one and then was going to get to have another one. So she felt that guilt and shame. And I felt all of that stuff. And I recently just had that realization going through this journey with all these people, with Danny and the Dannies, right? With the Dannies, and have been able to heal that with my witch friend helping me release and clear that energy, and doing this shit back from the placenta, release of I was supposed to feel protected. And then I felt that fear and loss of my identity my whole life. Right. But now it's I can see it, I can release it and know that that's not me anymore. So
Yeah.
it's this whole.
Yeah. I think that we as humans, there's so much before we even come into this world, before your mom was even pregnant with you, right? Your soul made an agreement that that would be your experience and your journey. Then when you remember that you made that agreement, you realize wait a minute, hold on. That was the agreement I made, but it was for me to be able to change this story, not for me to live in perpetuation of this story. One of the things that I love about what we teach and do in Lifted is that realize, okay, I've inherited stories from my family and from my parents. I have experienced stories in my life. I have created stories in my life. And most of them are of a victim villain nature, right? So I'm the victim and someone else is the villain. And then at some point, we have the awareness of, I don't like being the victim. This doesn't feel good. This keeps me trapped, keeps me stuck, keeps me limited, keeps me feeling like shit. And I don't like living in this story. It seems like because that could be a lifelong, compounded, big, complicated story, the solution to change that story is equally big and complicated. It's going to take me 30 years to let go of this, or I'm going to need my witch friend to do some woo stuff. And the thing is, yes, I believe in all that. I love it. I embrace it all the energy of the things. And all we actually need to change a story is a pen and paper and to know how to utilize our words. Because the stories that when we uncover the stories, once we become aware of the stories, that's the part that most people where they get stuck. Because I know this thing about me. I know this story. Oh, this is why I am this way. Not, and not really doing anything about that story. They just let it swirl in their head. They let it become this thing that just consistently, it's an excuse, it's part of the identity. And then we compound all those and we become deeper entrenched in the victim mentality. When we move into the creator of our story, right, the author of our own life, so many people in the spiritual manifestation worlds talk about this all the time. You're the creator of your own reality. What the fuck does that mean? Does it mean I have to go out into the world and start building things and creating things? Does it mean I have to go, what do I have to do? Okay, Joe Dispenza tells me I got to go up into the quantum and I got to create a new story and a new feeling, right? Okay, cool. I go do plant medicines. They tell me do those things. Okay, cool. I go do meditation. It tells me I can create a new reality. Okay, cool. What creates our reality? Is it our thoughts? Yes. Is it our words? Yes. Is it our stories? Yes. What are all of those things made of, right? It's words. It's words. It's our words. So how am I putting my words together in my internal thoughts? How am I putting my words together in my experience of my own life and self? How am I putting my concepts together and perpetuating that story? Most of us are doing it unconsciously, and most of us are living out a pattern. So how do we shift it and go back to a place where, wait, hold on, I can pick up the pen and I can author my own story. So when you wrote your story about accelerating your podcast and your growth, right? Like that was a story that I'm sure it was thoughts that you had. I'm sure it was ideas that you had thought before, things you were excited about, but how much more tangible and more real, more reality did that become once you wrote it down and you read it out loud and you did that process? It's a
Yeah.
new story. Write a new story, author a new story, live a new story, right?
It was get rid of the old story, see my current story of what I was doing to myself, and it's the freedom to create what the new story is, but I had to get the old one out to be able to see that I have that power to just write the new one.
Yeah, I agree. I've enjoyed a lot of the stories that I've written for myself in the last 10 years that I've been on this path. I think I've been on the path for a lot longer than I give myself credit for. I've been very much most of my life a seeker. I've been a questioner, curious, wanting more knowledge, more information, wanting to understand how the world works, wanting to understand how this whole thing comes together, but living under the spell of your average middle class American family. And so I followed those rules. I followed that script. I played in that story. And then I found myself miserable. And I was like, well, what the hell? Why am I so miserable? Why does this not feel good? Why don't I like my life? Why don't I like what I'm doing? Why don't I feel good enough? I checked all the boxes. I did everything you guys told me to do, and I'm not happy. So it sent me back into a mission for me to find out what that felt like and what that was going to be. And it started with first transforming my body. So getting healthy, getting fit, losing weight, and fueling myself better. And then it started to go into more of the mindfulness and meditation route and some yoga and journaling. And then it turned into looking for mentors and guides and podcasts. And then it turned to psychedelics. And then it went from that. And then I met Mark. And then I started learning about story and words. And then that's where it all just clicked to me. I was like, this is the thing that I've been wanting to do with a system in a way for a long time that I didn't know how to do. I didn't know it existed. And at first, it was hard to trust it. It was hard to figure out if this was something that I could actually find anything more than satisfaction and joy for myself in. Right. I was already doing coaching and health and nutrition. And it felt like, okay, cool. Like that it feels tangible. That feels 3D. That feels grounded, practical results. I can help people clean up their health and clean up their bodies and their diets. But how do I help them clean up their minds? Because their minds are the things that are in the way. And the stories are the things that are in the way. And once I started to learn real tools of how to do it, I've never been a fan of traditional paths, right? Like I was realizing I had been to therapy for many years myself. That wasn't doing shit. I had tried, doing journaling, and that wasn't doing, I tried meditation. I tried yoga. I tried the psychedelics. The first, handful of years I was doing psychedelics, that made it worse. It made it worse because I was living in a soup of non-tangible, nothing solid, everything ethereal, everything was too out there, there's no grounded practicality in what I was doing. I was having these beautiful experiences. I was having the best time of my life. I couldn't integrate it into my life. It was literally like, well, okay, the mushroom showed me this. Okay, the DMT showed me this. Okay, I had this vision. I did this thing. Well, what the fuck? I don't know. It's pressure. It's not here yet, but I know it. I feel it. I see it. Da, 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 right? It's like, whoa, okay, hold on. And eventually it was like, I got to a point where I realized that I can have all those experiences. I can go on all those quests. I can do all the meditations. I can do all the breath work. I can do the psychedelics. I can utilize cannabis. I can have all these things. But unless I have the tools to ground it into the practical here and now human experience, which is, the human experience is not 100% plant medicine, right? Like it's like that's not a very good human experience. We got to come back here and be in this plane, in this reality for most of our time, or figure out how to at least exist in it and maybe be halfway out there. And
Microdosing.
yeah, exactly. I just finished a microdosing protocol. I had the best time. And I love those tools. And there's something about how do I ground it in? How do I make it practical? How do I implement this? How do I make the changes? How do I make sense of what I saw and experienced? And at the end of the day, that all comes down to stories. That all comes down to words. That all comes down to what am I saying to myself in my own head? What am I saying out loud to other people? What am I writing down? What am I typing to other people? What am I thinking about all day long? We can get better at those skills to help us take all those beautiful, mystical, wonderful experiences and bring them in and ground them in and make use of them here rather than needing to be out here, making a big arc with my hands because just.
Well, I think what I've been seeing and realizing recently is that I went from the level of, like you said, like knowing that something was going to have to change. And for me, it was physical too. I had endometriosis and I had had 4 major surgeries. And then 2 years later, I had another one. And then 3 months later, was in this excruciating pain where I was just medicating to survive. So I had to change my life. And that was the first faint trigger point really for me to make the change was realizing all the things in the environment. And then, when you start noticing all that, then you start seeing all this other stuff of the healing and the opening up, of your mind. So it was like I went from stage of learning because I was like felt forced into it because of my health. And I got through the learning phase. And then the psychedelic phase is the believing phase. You start to believe it because then you're around other people who have already done it and figured it out. And you're like, okay, now I'm starting to kind of believe this. And then when you put it into the words and you realize and you make that change with those stories, with the words, then is where I got to the point of now I fucking feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm game with that. Yeah. I think that,
Learn, believe, feel. But you
yeah.
have to put it into practice. It's the action of the pen that's creating the magic.
Yeah, because there's some people that would say feel it first and then you can believe it. And I have never been I've never had access to that. I've never been able to feel it first and then believe it second. I've had to believe it so that I can feel it, so that I can
Yeah.
get that, right? And I think that the experience of where we are right now in the world today on March 27th, 2025 is the majority of it will say, I won't even say the world. I'll just say America. In America, most of the Western world, the experience that people are having is that they are fat, sick, and disconnected. That's my favorite words to use: fat, sick, and disconnected. So, and whether that's like a little bit pudgy or morbidly obese, people's bodies aren't operating at their vitality, their optimal functioning. And then we have sick, right? And so sometimes maybe you're not actually fat, but you have metabolic dysfunction, or you have another type of disease, or you have these trapped emotions that are making you sick. You have these trapped stories that are making you sick. And so again, you're not operating at your best vitality. And if your physical health is not there, your filter to the spiritual is clogged. We are receivers of consciousness. We don't generate consciousness, we receive it. If my receiver is clouded, which is that my body's not operating functionally, right? My health is not there. I can't receive the information because my body is going to go into survival mode and it's going to take faculties away from my ability to receive that information and put it towards just keeping me alive. And our bodies are so insanely intelligent that they know how to do that. They know how to allocate resources to what is most important, which is why you still find people who are not very physically healthy can still have spiritual experiences and connection with God, right? The experience of being disconnected is we're disconnected from ourselves, we're disconnected from God, we're disconnected from nature, we're disconnected from each other, we're disconnected from our communities, we're disconnected from the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, everything, right? And so, how do we get to a place where we can improve on those metrics? How can we get to a place where we can improve in those paths in our lives? Is at some point in time, there's typically it's by pain or by force. Right? It's like what you're talking about with yourself and your endometriosis. And then for me, it was the pain of being overweight. It was the pain of just feeling dead inside, working in a corporate job, living in Manhattan, not finding fulfilling relationships. The pain was just getting so big. And we go through those experiences to transmute them, right? And that is what it is to be human. And we are here for the contrast. We are here for the challenge. We are here to earn it. Like we're here to put in the effort and to change things and transmute things. And if we just were given all of the infinite source of infinite love and infinite manifestations and the infinite source of abundance that is available to us, we wouldn't value it. We wouldn't cherish it. We wouldn't be grateful for it. I want to earn it. I want to put in my reps. I want to put in the work. I want to feel the satisfaction of what it is for me to put my energy of my creation energy towards a thing to get it. And so, I think a lot of us come to this place in the path of spiritual development out of pain, out of necessity, out of being a last resort or a last ditch effort, or kind of like your hand was forced. And what does it start to look like now into the future? I see that being less and less and less. I think a lot of people are in a lot of pain and need support, and they're looking for other paths. And eventually I see it moving to the place of where we don't have to be in so much pain to find these modalities and tools in this experience, because it becomes more normal. It becomes more central. It becomes more available. It starts, parents are teaching this to their kids so that their kids don't go through what they went through, right? Versus like, my parents think I'm a kook. They think that every time I bring up anything to do with this, they think, oh, okay, she's always so, it's like they don't get it and they don't want to get it. And they're probably not going to come to my side of the fence, but that's okay.
And, I thought about the people who wouldn't understand or who would judge it. And honestly, those people don't even know what a podcast is. Like, where do I find this podcast thing? I'm like, why am I so concerned? It's okay. It's actually lying to myself if I'm not free to speak what I really feel and think, whatever that truth is, and regardless of what anyone else thinks or feels.
Yeah, you're liberating yourself and giving yourself permission to step into a place of being a leader, charting a new path. Like there's truth is freedom. Freedom is truth. All those things. It doesn't have to be the truth, like capital T truth. It just has to be yours. And I
Yeah.
spent a lot of time living in a story that was not true for me. Like it didn't feel true. It wasn't something that I enjoyed. And so I felt trapped. And then when
Yeah.
I created a story that felt more true to me, more accurate, more enjoyable, all of those things, then I found freedom. And then I found the freedom to be myself, right? Just be yourself.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself, have fun being you in this experience that you chose.
It's a magical place to be. I'm so glad to have gotten here.
Yeah. It just gets better from here. Like I tell myself that often because it's true. The things have only ever gotten better. And yeah, there's been some times where I've doubted that or wondered if that was going to be the case. And that's where, surrender, hold the vision, and just go for it.
It's the being in the moment of who cares if it doesn't continue? I'm going to enjoy this moment right now. And then when you forget about the fear of not being able to feel it again, then you're able to just keep feeling it.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what you wrote with Mark and what you saw for this podcast. Of course, I can
So,
listen to the episode too, but I want to hear it now so that we can talk about it.
well, one of them was that I will publish 50 episodes this year. One
Okay.
of them was that I will ask anyone that I want to be a guest that's in alignment will be a guest. And then the other one was that this podcast will be my full-time job. And
Oh, yeah. Okay.
literally this in the last 3 days, I've been really processing after the experience with the weekend and all of the things and the stories and letting go of everything, that this week I have decided that I am ready to let go of those corporate jobs and investing 100% in me and what I'm doing with this, because I've been investing a lot in me and I'm ready to take that step and to put out, my coaching offer and do this because I've been doing it.
Yeah.
My whole life has been in sales, which has been talking to people, asking them questions, and helping them find an answer to their problem. I'm ready to let go of those other pieces of selling bullshit. I want to sell what's helped me, because each time I sell somebody else, the 80, what is it, 20, 30, 80.
Yeah.
The big
80.
one is when you tell it, right? When you explain it, and it's like, that's when you really learn it and you
Yeah.
really feel more confident in yourself each time you get to explain it and help somebody else help themselves with the same tool. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, podcasting has been one of the most enjoyable things that I've done in my career in the last 3 years. It's been difficult too, right? Because it challenged my identity. It made me more visible. It put people into some intimate details of my life and, interacting with people that I always saw as mentors and leaders that I would invite on to our podcast and interview. And what that did for me and to me, the ways that I've stepped up to do it, the ways that I've owned things that it has been the most Yes, it has helped me generate money into our business. Yes, it has connected me with awesome people that have become clients of mine and generated, cash into my own pocket. Yes, it has allowed me opportunities to speak to mentors and leaders that I otherwise wouldn't have had one-on-one time with, or I would have had to pay for one-on-one time with, versus inviting them onto my podcast allowed me 75 minutes of their undivided attention. And I've had beautiful conversations, but the number one thing that I think about for myself and that I love to share with new podcasters or people who are passionate in getting this thing rolling is mindset is the story you tell yourself, right? That's what we teach at Enlifted. We're talking about stories. We've been talking about stories. Podcasting is storytelling. And every time you turn on the microphone, you have an opportunity to tell your story and you have an opportunity to craft your story. I said this to a girl and I think I broke her brain. She was I met her at a party. She didn't know that I had a podcast. She was talking about her podcast and her experience with it and yada 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 and all these things and about how selfless it was of her to do this podcast and how it was like so much so of service. And I turned and I looked at her and I said, "I disagree." And she's like, okay. I was like, I think podcasting is first and foremost for the host. It's primarily for the host. And if it's for anybody else, if you're doing it for anybody else, that's not, you're missing the point. And she like looked at me and kind of was like, what? And I said, yeah, it's a completely selfish endeavor. You have to be the one to sit down in front of the mic, put yourself out there and be okay with it and like it. And if you put yourself out there and you're okay with it and you like it, then it will be of service to other people. But if you're putting the microphone in front of your face and telling your stories to be of service of somebody else, you missed it.
Oh my gosh. That's so interesting because those first couple of episodes that I did some solo episodes, and I think I was feeling that way. I know that my experience can help other people. So how do I give them what they need?
Right. Yeah.
So it was very uncomfortable. And I was like recording and re-recording and, AI helped me revise this and re-recording and then and they were actually had good content, right? The content was great, but the delivery and the energy was off. And then like, as this has progressed and like that, what you said, like shifted. And I was like, holy fuck, this is like, I don't care if it helps anybody else. This shit's helping me.
Yeah.
So, because before it was like, if it helps one person, and I was like, well, fuck, it's helping me.
I tell my stories for me. I don't tell my stories for anybody else. If I'm telling my stories for somebody else, I'm not doing it.
I think the key for me has been once I have started to feel more confident and trust and love for myself, that it's safe to be myself and to share my story, the more I keep sharing and the easier it becomes. And each time you do it, the more confident and the more excitement it like generates that like, you know what? This is safe. This is okay.
Yeah.
And then you just do it more and more.
The best feat over, 3 years of doing this, which is still a baby podcaster, that's like, I'm still I've got a lot more reps than I did the day I started, and I still have a lot more to go. The thing that I would say has been the best feedback that I've gotten from listeners and people, and the reason why they keep coming back to the show and why they keep enjoying it and liking it and wanting more of it is because they can tell that I'm just being myself. And in the times when I'm being the most myself, whether that's interviewing somebody else or when I'm shooting the shit with Mark and the real me is seen and shown, people feel it. And the ones that get it love it. And the ones who don't get it, don't get it. There was in the beginning phases of talking, there was a lot of things that I was like, oh, I'm not going to talk about that. Oh, I'm not going to share this part of me. Oh, I'm not going to say what I really think because I wasn't comfortable with all the things that I would say to a friend or, in a conversation because I was recording it and I was putting it on the internet. And what if so-and-so heard it? Or what if, just what if people didn't like it? What if it wasn't the thing? And so in the beginning, when I was more nervous about saying what I really thought or more conservative about saying what I really thought, I felt stifled in it. I felt like I was leaving something on the table. Like I wasn't saying the full truth. I was pussyfooting around. That's one of my favorite words. Pussyfooting around the truth, right? Yeah. And I just love that word. And so And then I got to the point where I just had to be more honest because I could feel myself having more to say. And then maybe the pendulum swung too far away from what was relevant to the audience or what was relevant to the topics of conversation. But I found the middle. I found the middle. And now I speak freely in every conversation that I have, not just in podcasting, in every conversation I have, because it translates out into the world. And when I meet people, I meet new people, or I find myself introducing myself or talking about myself, it's often one of the last things that I say is that I host a podcast because I don't feel a need to until I feel like it's something that's resonant for the person I'm talking to. But when people find that out, they're like, oh, interesting. Okay, tell me more. What's that like? What's that? Oh, I've always wanted to do that. Oh, I've always found that curious. Oh, wow. Like, there's something about that. Like, you can tell that there's, because what does it mean? Like, I'll just ask you this and I'll ask myself this. What does it mean about you that you host a podcast?
It means that I'm confident enough with myself that I feel safe to tell my story
Hell yeah. Right. To
and to
me,
be vulnerable, because people are so afraid to tell their real truth because of what other people will say. But the reality is, even if, I mean, you think about some of the most popular people ever, I mean, you think of Michael Jackson, right? Whoever it is, and how much pain, we all know that they lived in, that everybody can love you and say you're the greatest. But if you're saying something different, it doesn't matter what other people are thinking. So why are we spend so much time focused on what other people are thinking and focus on what we're thinking about
yeah,
ourselves? Then the rest doesn't matter. And our energy changes to this whole love instead of fear energy. Then people around you start feeling that energy too.
yeah,
So who cares? You would never know if they hated you because you're not even around it. Like, it repels off of you.
yeah. I think to have the confidence to speak, know other people are going to listen, share your story boldly. It's a very vulnerable act and it's also a very authentic act. And to me, what does it mean about me that I do it? It means that I care about the sharing the information that I know. It means that I care about educating other people. It means that I care about having information that's accessible to other people that's going to be helpful. It means that I can look at it and say, what does it mean about me that I've been doing it for 3 years? It means that I show up consistently, right? It means that I stuck with it. It means I keep going. And there's all these ways that we can make meaning about why we don't do it or shouldn't do it, or why we're not good enough to do it, or why we're never going to be successful at it. And at the end of the day, no one's going to shit talk you more than you. Turn off the shit talking voice in your own head and watch what happens. Lots of good stuff. Lots of cool experiences will happen because of it. It's your internal dialogue, it's your life, it's your story. And if you're letting other people write it or run it, it's not a very enjoyable way to live.
When If you heal your relationship within yourself, then you can heal a relationship with anything or anyone else, whether it's with your parents or with money or with a spouse or your body or whatever it is. And it's interesting that we have this similar story. First off, with the health thing, the other thing I've noticed is if people have come to this point, like we said, of this, like, forced into it out of maybe, a relationship or career, whatever it is, and their health is out of balance too, it's that much more difficult. I think it's going to take 2 or 3 times the amount of effort and work to get through it if they don't focus on their health first, because all of those other pieces just makes the health component so much worse. And the physical health automatically helps the mental health. So it's like kind of that first trickery, and changing your story, right? Is taking care of your physical self. And if you can't take care of your physical shell that you're in, who else is going to do that?
Yeah. So people say mind, body, spirit, right? Like, oh, I want to work with people, mind, body, spirit. And I say, you mean body, mind, spirit, right? Because exactly what you're talking about, right? It's got to start with the physical body. And we had a whole conversation about it. And Mark was like, I disagree. Because your mind is the thing that helps you decide to change your body. And I was like, well, okay, fair enough. Yes. But the thing is like that's like maybe one decision in one like story that we keep working towards to be able to, or ping ponging back and forth between the two. And at the end of the day, it is significantly easier to work with your mind when your body is working well. Because if your
Yeah.
body's not working well, then it's difficult to get into that headspace. And I do feel, with the way that our current healthcare system approaches mental health, we are making things worse more than we are making things better. We are telling people that there's just something wrong with them, that they need this thing outside of themselves to fix. We're telling them that it has nothing to do with your physiology, that being in shape or being fit or being healthy, vital human has nothing to do with your mental health issues. Wrong, like completely disagree. At the end of the day, what you can create and do for yourself when you're physically vital, alive, and healthy is going to be bigger and more energy when you're healthy and when you're vibrant. You have more to give. I really feel like at the end of the day, whatever stage you're at on your journey, whether it's getting physically healthy, whether it's digging into your mind and your stories, whether it's building your relationship with God, spirituality, all of those pieces are important, and they're never going to be okay. I got this one, then I'm going to go to the next, then I'm going to go to the next. They're a constant like circle of evolution and a constant experience of like, one, then the next, then the next, then the next. And we're going to keep rolling through that cycle rather than rolling through it as like a stepping stones or steps. It's not linear. It's not linear. So we're looking at all of those things, and we're going to be able to improve all of those things by working on all of them. But where do we start? Where do we start? And which one is going to be the biggest needle mover for you? And that's going to be different for every person too. So,
Yeah. Well, it's almost like a lot of those other ones will end up leading to a physical ailment in your body. So
oh,
if
yeah,
you can almost, I mean, you can at least trick your brain enough before you start working on the mental side to force your body into some sort of submission at least. But there is definitely a mental side of that as well that people oftentimes forget. But it's like when you're talking about what does the healthcare system do, I mean, gosh, I don't even know if they would have the capacity anyway. If you think about like all the other things that are thrown at people now with all the seed oils and the pesticides and hormones and all the things, the phytoestrogens, all the plastics, all the things that I had to recognize were part of the environment that was making me sick. Compounding, right? It's not just one of those, and the fluoride and all the stuff in your shampoo and your makeup and all the shit. It's like you, when people don't even know that that's part of what's affecting their physical self, then of course that's going to affect your mental self, and that's going to affect your relationship, and it's going to affect your drive for your purpose or your vision or your love for your life. It's almost like you're already fighting this battle, and if you can at least figure out that part,
yeah,
then you have some of the mental capacity to open up to more.
totally, totally. Yeah, it's so interesting because I do feel like, now and I definitely credit psychedelics to a lot of this awakening within myself, because it became obvious to me how artificial most of my world was, and how poisonous actually most of my world was, and how I
Yeah.
was drawn so much more towards nature and natural things. And a couple of years ago, I made the decision slowly but surely to eliminate all the toxic products in my house, all of my beauty products, all of my self personal care products. I had already been, it's been 8, 9 years since I swear I knew I was eliminating seed oils before anybody even knew what a seed oil really was. Suddenly it got popular again, and or it got more popular. And I was like, oh, remember how all y'all thought I was nuts?
Right.
But like the experience of like and it just I'm like, you know what, I don't even care. I don't care that it doesn't matter. Like, cool, we're all on the same page now. But yeah, it was a lot of the psychedelic experiences that helped me recognize what was truly disrupting my body and my field and my energy and my spirit. And the best thing, and I tell this to women all the time specifically, you don't need more stuff. You need less. You need to remove all of these products from your life and from your house. Go into your average woman's bathroom. She's got 17,000 skincare items, 16 different shampoos, all these different soaps, all the nail care, all of the sprays and the perfumes and the fragrances and the candles and the this. And it's like, get rid of all of that, strip it all down, go down to the most basic things, and then start to replace the basic things with a better, more natural alternative. And you'll be shocked at how much faster your hair will grow, how much better your skin will look, how much stronger your nails will be. You don't need these products to do those things. Those products are hindering those parts of you. And so, it's like that conversation starts. If you start the conversation there and you can look at it there, then you can start to see extrapolate it out to other things, because you realize the stuff that you're being sold to fix a problem is actually creating a problem, right? And then you spiral into the place where you
Yeah, it's
realize
just creating more and more fog. It's
exactly.
kind of the whole plan. So it's like digging yourself out of that fog and seeing that there is a light, and the dark has its purpose, but there is a light.
Yeah, it's been a fun journey to watch and evolve how, and again, like, the different ways in which this has shown up in my own life and the ways I get to share it and teach it to other people. Ask me in 5 years, I'm going to be talking about something that I thought was totally okay now, that I'm going to have the realization was like, oh, that was not okay. Like, shit, I can't believe I lived like that, or I can't believe I made that choice or did that thing. And which I'm going to be happy about, because it means I'm still growing, I'm still learning, I'm still in pursuit of the path, right? And so to think that I have it all figured out now would be silly. But at the same time, I've figured out a lot more than I have over the handful of years. And it's like, if you're on that journey too, just keep going. Just keep going. Like, expect, take layers off rather than putting layers on.
I love that. That's that's a good one. Oh, wow. This has been so fun. Wendy, how old were you when you think you first kind of started opening up and making your journey or realizing that there was another path?
So consciously and intentionally, I was about 25. I was living in New York City. I was like 3 years into a corporate job. I was, you know, making a paycheck to go drink it and to go party and
Mm.
pay my rent, pay my student loans, and to go drink. And that was all I was doing. And I was not happy. Why? Because none of those things felt good. And
Yeah.
then experience of something has to change because I don't feel good. And that's when I started getting fit and healthy and embarked on a weight loss journey that ultimately opened the door to a lot more of what was possible for me. That was the conscious adult decision of, I'm going to change and this is going to be different, that dominoed every other decision down the path that eventually led me to deciding to become a health coach, which led me to, I'm going to quit corporate, I'm going to become an entrepreneur, which led me to all the other mentors and coaches and guides that made me work deeper on myself and learn more things about myself, go to seek, right? And then when I was on that journey, what I realized was that I've been seeking this my entire life. This voice has been within me my entire life. I've always felt this. I've always been more spiritually plugged in. I've always been tuned in, tapped in. I have this strong intuition. I've had this strong creative force. I was raised in Catholic schools and I consistently just rejected that ideology. I was like, there's so much, this is not right. This is not it. There's something, God is something so much bigger than this and so different than this. And I would be the kid who would raise my hand the second the teacher said something. And they're like, nope, we're not calling on you because whatever you're going to say is going to disrupt the entire lesson. Then I studied philosophy in college, and that was my way of, at least within the bounds of what was still the appropriate story, for me to get to scratch that itch and for me to learn and have deep thoughts and have conversations about what we're really doing here. How does this place work? What is this thing? And so when I made the conscious choice to change my life, it had been a whole lifetime, like at that point in time, all those 25 years leading up to that point of pushing me over the edge. And from 25 to about 30 were the most difficult years. Like, they were so hard because I was going so much against the grain of the story that my parents wrote for me, and they didn't like that, going against the grain of what the society had written for me, going against the grain of what my friends expected from me. And then it hit this edge where it was like, I don't care anymore, because I found in that journey for myself, I found what is true for me, what lights me up, what makes me feel good. And then it was another couple of years of getting comfortable in that. And then now here we are, and I'm as comfortable as I've ever been. And I know I'll get even more comfortable. I'll find even more of the places. And, I look forward to the day where I get to look around at all the people who thought I was nuts in my 20s and say, told you so.
Because
Yeah,
the
exactly.
cool thing is
I
that
told me so.
well, I completely believe that we're all mirrors, right? And
Yeah.
we attract the same energy. So it's like once you get in this different energy, you don't even see those people anymore. And then when you are able to look around you and, like you said, being able to have those conversations with people and meeting all these people in the community that you're like, man, these are some really amazing people, then that's when you can say, well, I must be pretty fucking amazing too, right? Because if we're mirrors and this whole like conversation, I feel like your story is like my story, but yours is like ahead of mine and you're younger than me. So that's why I asked, like, when did your story start? And you say 25. Well, mine probably didn't really start until like I was 40,
I
39 or 40. So how beautiful is that to see that if this is happening at a quicker rate of basically years of experience, right? That I have in difference of, you know what I'm saying? So I
yeah,
think just like you said, of people's parents not discussing it with them. And then now more people are, and more people are having these conversations that's the way we do it. We get back to the heart. We rewrite our story, right? We create our own lives. We take care of ourselves first, then the things around us begin to grow.
absolutely. It's interesting that you bring up age. And here's the way that I've thought about the same thing myself, because I've seen people younger than me get it even faster and quicker. I'm what the fuck?
Yeah, there's a couple of
And
guys in our inner circle program that are like 20 and 23. And my nephew is helping me with the clips and Instagram and stuff. And he's like 21 and he's 21 or 22. Anyway, he still feels like a baby to me. And he's so cute because he tells me, he's like, man, I'm watching these episodes a lot as I'm helping you create these clips. And like, this stuff is really good, And I'm like,
yeah,
how beautiful is that he's in a completely different generation bracket and he's listening to this and it's making sense, right? So that's the thing. I'm helping
yeah,
myself and other people get to share their story and it starts to make sense. And that's how it grows. And that's what's
totally.
like so
Totally.
exciting about it. He's like, I really like this stuff. Like,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, so this is my take on the age situation, is that I actually believe that we are all of the same age right now, right? The time is a made up thing in a lot of ways,
yes,
all happening at once, right? So we're right here right now. And in this, it doesn't matter that I'm whatever calendar age and you're whatever calendar age. We're in the same age of awakening right now,
yes.
right? Our society, our consciousness
Oh
is
my
in
God, that's so true.
awakening. And
Yeah.
so we're all, no matter what age we are all opening to this experience in this way. And some of us got there sooner, had more reps, did something, went off the path, went off the rails sooner. And now we're bringing one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got. This was before I even made the jump to go be a coach. And while I was still in this dark night of the soul where I was really trying to figure out how am I going to make my life work. And one of my dear friends was one of my yoga instructors, and she told me, and she was in her late 30s at the time. She had lived a lot of life in those 10 years that was made her much wiser than me. A lot of pain, a lot of heartache. She was widowed very young, like a very interesting experience and journey. And she told me, she said, it's not about age and it's not about that. She's like, we're all just out here being lighthouses for each other. And if you can hold a torch and carry that for someone, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you can shine some light for them and say, hey, come follow me, like I know this path, I can take you down it. And I might not be able to take you all the way, but somebody else who's going to be waiting for you with another lighthouse, light torch
Hmm.
down the line, and we're going to get you there. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's all I have to do is like hold. She's like, you're already doing it. I was like,
Yes.
oh, okay, then I can keep going.
Yes. Because, this whole process, I mean, there's been so many people that I've learned from. It's not just, there's no one answer. So you're exactly right. I love that so much. This is so great. I've just like, there's been so many nuggets. I love this.
Yeah, I'm excited for you on this journey with your podcast, and I'm excited for you to make this your full-time gig. It's a bold, you know, claim of what you want. And any way we can help, let us know.
Yes, I know what I was going to say. So yesterday I did my practice for the
Mhm.
first certification with someone lovely in my community, and she's 80, almost 81.
Oh, nice.
And she's going through this herself, and it was incredibly beautiful. And like, exactly, you're right. We're in this age of awakening that it doesn't matter if it's my nephew who's 22 or Penelope, you know what I mean, who's 80 years old, and she's just this beautiful soul. She's going to be on. I'm going to start a whole nother podcast, side conversations with Penelope, because she's got so many beautiful stories and such a light to shine out there. So yeah, we did the homework, the language game, and it
Nice.
was incredibly beautiful. Like immediately flipped a negation at the very beginning. Yeah, it was awesome. So it's
Yeah, you're
been
gonna
beautiful to be that reflection, right? And helping already see that story of what we're telling ourselves and learning every day.
yeah, absolutely. You're gonna have such a fun time in this cert with us. I already know, like from when we first connected, I was like, yeah, she's gonna do great work with this. She's gonna learn a lot. This is gonna do awesome stuff. And yeah, we're just getting started.
I know,
We're just
I'm
getting
so
started.
excited, because it was like, if I'm serious, it's so funny, like hearing your story, and like I feel like I'm your story, like at a later date and in 3D time. And it's like I was already seeing these things, and certain words like should. I took that out a long time ago. So I was like, fuck that word. That's so angry. And actually somebody just told me this weekend, and I love this. Should is could with shame.
Oh, interesting.
Big facts, right?
I think we get the opportunity to start seeing things differently when we start looking at our words and when we start recognizing that those words are tied into feelings and emotions. And that's exactly what that is, right? It's like we're looking at the word and we're realizing it, and then we're seeing, oh, wait, there's an emotion in tied in with this word. And then, oh, it's the same letters too. Hold on. And that's the value
Right.
of things you're thinking. I don't have the answers, but I do look at words a lot. So
That's it. Oh my gosh. Well, I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and I definitely want to schedule another one and have another conversation. This has been fabulous. Thank you
yeah,
so much, Kimberly. This has been amazing.
yes, thanks for having me on. I'm glad we got to connect and chat, and I'm looking forward to supporting you on your Enlifted journey and beyond.
Okay, well, if you want to share your contact information, and I will put it in the show notes, but if you want to tell the audience.
Oh, yeah. So you can find me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active. And my handle is my name, Kimberly.Kesting. And then if you want more of the word magic from Enlifted, you can check out our website, enlifted.me. The Get Enlifted podcast is the podcast that I host, where we're having all these fun conversations and different ways that you can keep practicing with your words and your stories. And at Enlifted Coaches on Instagram, that will, if you message us there, you're getting marked. So don't expect to talk to me, but you'll get something fun and interesting.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, exactly. I got to give that warning. So,
Yeah, just in case. Okay, well, I will put the information in the show notes, and thank you so much. If anyone's listening that this story resonated with you at all, please share this with a friend. This is some powerful information. We have shared a lot from the heart today in our journey, and I thank you, Kimberly, for sharing yours.
yes, thanks for having me.